welcome back everybody to the Veteran Coach Courtney podcast. Today I have with me a very special guest that I met during my journey across the country to Iowa, doing RAGBRAI. His name is Ed Kirkman, and he is a local of Des Moines, Iowa. And he has quite the extensive background with service and leadership and many other things that we're going to talk about today. So I'm super excited to have him. So welcome, Ed.
Thank you.
All right. So just to give a little bit of a background, right? So Ed, from what I know, and we're going to find out together a lot more about him today, but he served in the Coast Guard for some time. And then I know he was also a Des Moines police officer, which I did read. He had some pretty interesting experiences doing that. I know he has served multiple roles with different construction and management type things. And Ed, you can correct me. And now he is the essentially CEO. I think he has given credit for his wife to Cha Cha's Highland Bakery in Des Moines, Iowa, which is absolutely amazing and the best cinnamon roll that I've ever had. So, and I have sent a couple people your way for that so far. But Ed, if you would just please share maybe just a little bit of your story, maybe starting back with Coast Guard, or you can even start with I think your father served. Was military always on your radar? Start wherever you'd like.
Sure. The military definitely was not on my radar. I started out. My parents are extremely Catholic. I grew up on the south side of Des Moines. I pretty much lived my whole life there. My mom was so Catholic. If she wouldn't have had 5 kids, like she wanted to be a nun. So she made my dad build us a house. My dad was a general contractor his whole life. Had my dad build us a house literally a block from Christ King Catholic Church on Wall Street in Des Moines. And I was serving mass as early as I possibly could. I'd get up. I was a nerd. I'd get up at 4 a.m. and go down and wake the priest up and serve mass every single morning, probably up until junior high school. And then I realized that women existed, and that went out the window. I just did normal stuff in high school. I hated high school. I did not enjoy it one little bit. I was a good student in grade school, but high school, I was more of a party animal than academic, I would say. And I didn't like it. I'm a hands-on kind of person, always have been. Our education system, I could get on a whole other kick about that, about just classrooms aren't the best for people. So I left high school early. I dropped out, I guess, is the best word to describe, or best words to describe it. It was call a spade. And I got my GED, and I was not sure what the hell I was going to do with my life. I knew I did not want to work construction. I watched my dad struggle with that for years. We lived through the 80s. It was pretty similar to 2008, except for worse. We lost everything we owned. We lost our house. There were 7 of us that moved into a 2-bedroom trailer. So we were extremely poor for a lot of years. We were extremely wealthy when I was young, and then had nothing. And I was like, what am I going to do? I don't want to work construction. So I went to a Marine Corps recruiter when I was 17.
And you weren't considering, you weren't considering the Catholic route anymore at this point. That stopped when the girls came around.
No, yeah. Right? I mean, honestly, I don't. Me and my dad have always talked about it. He was a deacon in the Catholic Church until the day he died. I don't know where my drop off was or where my fallout was. It's funny to joke about whether it was girls or whatever. Really, I don't even think that was the case. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was watching my parents lose everything they owned. I mean, you can pray so hard when you're a little kid. I mean, it almost seemed like Santa Claus bullshit to me, to be quite honest with you. At that particular point in my life, obviously my worldview's changed over the decades. But when you're a teenager and you just don't understand, and I mean, faith is a weird thing. So I wasn't really living a very faithful life, but I knew I wanted to do something with my life to still help people, and I needed to do something with my life. I did not want to stay in Des Moines. It's a big world. I love this city. Don't get me wrong. But at the time, I'm like, oh my God, I want to go somewhere and see the world. So I went and talked to a Marine Corps recruiter, and I was really close with my grandparents on my mom's side. Well, all my grandparents. I went back and told my grandpa, I'm like, hey, I took the ASVAB for the Marines, and he looked at me. He said, "You are a dipshit. What is wrong with you?" The guy was the head of Union Pacific Railroad for several years here in Iowa, decades actually, as the Union head. But he was a World War II vet. Both my grandfathers were, and they were both coasties. And it turns out I found out, after I had joined, that my grandfather was on the Hunter Liggett. He was at Guadalcanal. There's only one Coast Guard Medal of Honor recipient. He was on the same ship, on the same operation that Douglas Monroe was on. And
Oh, wow.
he specifically told me, he said, I ran over more dead Marines than I want to talk about. You will not join the Marine Corps. The dude didn't get off his couch, man. He watched the Cubs, drank Michelob, and mowed his grass. Like that's all he did when he got home from the war. PTSD wasn't talked about, but he went to work, kept to himself, had a beautiful yard, never spoke of his service. I grew up with a bunch of World War II vets playing poker, drinking Budweiser, and smoking cigars. But they didn't really tell war stories, man. It was a different generation. They didn't
Hmm.
say shit about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So anyway, he got off the couch and drug me to a Coast Guard recruiter instead. And there was one in Des Moines at the time. There's not anymore. And I watched that video, and I'm like, oh, okay, oh my God, I love boats, I love the ocean. I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. And I think I was gone for boot camp within a month. I didn't stop. I went straight, signed up, went straight through MEPS. My ASVAB was already good. My scores were good. So off to Cape May, New Jersey. I went. I was 17 years old when I joined. I
Had
was
you had you had you done any traveling outside of Des Moines prior to leaving for the Coast Guard?
No, I'd done like I said, my parents didn't have a lot of money. So the only travel I'd ever done, there was a 1 day trip to the Bahamas. My dad bought everybody tickets for 1 day. I was 16. He took my grandparents. We all flew down to the Bahamas for a day. I got the worst sunburn of my life. And that was pretty much all the traveling I'd ever done. There was just no money. He was self-employed. My mother was self-employed. And like I said, construction was horrible in the 80s. It wasn't good for a lot of people, or
Yeah.
farmers, or anybody else that lived through that decade. Towards the end of the 80s, that was a whole different story, but the beginning of the 80s was not great. So we
Yeah.
didn't do a lot travel wise.
Yeah. I can relate to that. When I joined the Navy, I was 23, and because I went to college post. Well, it's interesting. We share a lot of similarities over the course of our whole life, but for me, like I grew up, and my mom, the only thing she spoke of, the only thing I knew was you're gonna be go to seminary to be a pastor,
Sure.
right? So we didn't talk about real college and regular college. I did that on my own because all my friends were doing that, and I played sports. So I thought, all my friends were athletes, so I was like, I can be an athlete, like I'm just as good as them.
Right.
And so I just figured it out on my own. I had zero interest in the military either myself, or at least I didn't in high school. But it's funny, we kind of share. You said you wanted to maybe be like a deacon for the Catholic
Sure.
Church. I definitely had that thought, and I don't know if you even know this or not, but when I got out of active duty myself, I commissioned into the Navy chaplain program. I don't know if I shared that or not.
I
So
think
that
Josh
was
did.
one of those things. What was that?
I think Chacha knew that part of it. I didn't, but she had brought it up to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of those things for me where, I think all of our faiths evolve over time, right? We all go in ups and downs and seasons and evolution. And obviously mine has went through quite some ups and downs and changes. But essentially, when I left high school at 18 and then went to college and then joined the military, I did my own thing there for my early 20s. I really had a lot of guilt thinking that I was running away from what God wanted me to do, because that's all I was taught was to go be a preacher, right?
Right.
So over time I kind of realized that maybe that was not the case necessarily, but basically after I chased what I wanted for my entire 20s, which was to be a Navy SEAL, and
Yep.
it did not work out, and I did everything I possibly could, so I have no regrets. But I was like, all right, God, let's. I'm gonna surrender to you now. Like, I don't want to be a pastor, but I'll be a chaplain because I'm sure you've met some chaplains being in the Coast Guard and with the
Oh
Marine
yeah.
Corps and the Navy. They're amazing people, and everybody loves them, and they're just there to help people. You know what I mean? So it was a way to be able for me to still be in the military. And funny enough, because I am partially paralyzed right now. I'm actually still in the chaplain program. They're actually trying to see if they can't do a waiver to push me through. During my when I became paralyzed, though, in my head, I thought that was over. Like there's no way you can't rejoin. So I've moved on mentally to do everything I'm doing now. But it will be super interesting if they do tell me that, hey, if you want to do it, you can. That'll definitely be an interesting thing. I'll have to play out in my mind, but anyways, I just wanted to share a little relation there. But because when I was 23, when I left for the Navy, it was the first time that I saw the ocean. I had never traveled, very similar background, like not a lot of money, like no vacations. So the military kind of provided a way for what I'm trying to build for my future family and stuff. And it sounds like that was the first step for you doing that for yourself.
It
Is
was the
that right?
best thing. It was the best thing that I've ever done. I mean, the doors that were open. I don't regret a second of it. The doors that were open to me. It changes your whole worldview. The people that you serve with. I mean, you were in the Navy. You know the deal. And we're a small service. There's only 40,000 of us. We have services smaller than the New York City freaking police department. But you serve with people from all over, man. I mean, you know the deal. I mean, you're nobody on that boat crew's got the same damn story.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic, and it really opens your eyes into, yeah, I was raised this way, but maybe it's not the right way or the only way. Everybody's got a different perspective.
Yeah. So can we do like a somewhat brief, unless you want to share something that isn't brief, that's fine. I want to give you free reign of your like how many years in the Coast Guard, like what did that career development look like? Is there anything significant that happened that you remember that was very formidable to who you are now or your decision to get out? Stuff like that.
It was pretty wild. I would have never got out. I don't think, to be quite honest with you. I loved it. I went through boot camp. Like I said, I was 17, and academics weren't my strong suit. So I finished somewhere in the middle of my class, and I'm not the most athletic human being in the world. In fact, I couldn't get marching down to save my life. My wife's taking me to dance classes. Now, dude, I've got no rhythm. It just doesn't matter. This left, right, left shit wasn't for me. And strangely enough, our boot camp class was marching in George Bush's inauguration in '88. So if you got held back a week or you couldn't march, which I really struggled with, you weren't going to be able to participate in that. And I mean, this is before the internet. Like, it was just a magical thing. I'm like, oh my god, I just came from Iowa. I'm going to be able to be in Washington D.C. and march for this. So I worked my ass off and got through it, and actually did march in Bush's inauguration, which was really cool. It was
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. It was a cool experience. I dropped my white glove from my alphas in a porta john, and I had to wear a female one, and at the time they were really frilly on my gun hand. Uh,
Yeah.
little humility, man, in life, no matter what.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I walked up to the JG, the lieutenant, and I'm like, "Ma'am, I dropped my glove in the toilet." She's like, "Oh my god!" So she gave me one of her frilly gloves, and my gun hand, my rifle arm, I got a frilly white glove in.
Hey, can so let me real quick, if you don't mind, can I share a story that is very relatable to that, but way worse to make you feel better?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be very brief, but it's kind of similar concept. So, you dropped your white glove, which is important. This is a part of your uniform,
Yep.
into the toilet,
Yep.
right?
And I wasn't getting it out.
So I made the biggest, and I'm sharing this with the public right now because I don't hide things. So go ahead and ridicule me all you want, whoever ends up seeing this. But I learned a really significant lesson when I was with the Marine Corps. So as a Navy corpsman, I was with the Marine Corps. We carried around when we were in the field and 29 Palms training environments. We always had our rifle with us 24/7. Even when we slept, we had to have secure, possession of our rifle. And there would even be times like during training, which was silly, but then again, not really, to where they would test that and try to steal them from you or whatever while you're sleeping, right? So you got to like sleep with it. But anyways, being brief, like I said, I was in 29 Palms and I put my rifle down off of my person in like the bathroom porta john area in the middle of the desert in the middle of a training environment, and like washed my hands essentially and left without it.
Oh, shit.
Like I literally left it there and then walked all the way back very far to where my place is before I realized, because you feel naked, like holy shit, where is my rifle? And obviously it wasn't there when I got back, which so big deal.
Yep.
And so my mission now with hundreds and hundreds of people from all different units from all over the place, because it was like a joint training area where people were from all over, and I had to go find my rifle without hopefully the bigger people finding out to make this a big deal. And thank God somehow I did. But
That's
that
not a good feeling.
that was very embarrassing. And you know, I never did that again. I'll tell you that.
Yep. Yep. I'm
Yeah.
still afraid of porta potties.
Yeah, something about them, man. But anyway, so that was a big thing in the Coast Guard. But then, so how long did you end up doing the Coast Guard, and what did you do exactly in the Coast Guard other than the marching thing you're talking
I
about?
did. I did 5 years. I was on my way to do 8. I had signed an extension, but out of boot camp, I had two choices. It was go to Alaska or go to New York, and I was really close with my family. So I wanted to be closer so I could at least fly home, whatever. I had no concept of reality that you really weren't going home. You're going to be broke and you're going to be working all the time. But so I went to New York City and I ended up at a warehouse in Brooklyn back in the John Gotti days. That was at 31st, and I can't even freaking remember. It's been 3 decades.
Yep.
But anyway, the DEA was housed there. Customs was housed there. We shipped everything to every unit in the world that the Coast Guard was assigned to. And dude, it was a place that people go to retire, not somewhere you want to go right out of boot camp. And I lived on Staten Island. That's where housing was. And back then, the toll, it was cheap, but it was $5 a day. But I mean, we were only making $200 every 2 weeks. So that toll was taking a toll on finances.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had a chief at that unit that gave a shit. So he was like, "Look, you didn't join the Coast Guard to drive a forklift." He made us do temporary duty at Station New York, which was on Governor's Island. If you're familiar with New York, a lot of people are, a lot of people aren't. You've seen it a million times on TV. But our Coast Guard station was on the north end of Governor's Island by the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. I mean, it was a beautiful building, and you couldn't have a better view. I mean, the night view is the Twin Towers, and the Staten Island Ferries right there was attached to the Governor's Island Ferry Terminal. You got the watchtower up from Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge. I mean, we had a beautiful view of the harbor.
Wow.
We had a really cool Lido deck. Regardless, he made us do 2 weeks there. So I went over with all my stuff and I checked into the unit and they assigned me a boat crew. And I mean, within 40 minutes, they assigned me this boat crew. I don't know a damn person. I think I'm 8. No, I'm still 17 at this point. And it's one of the busiest search and rescue stations in the world. So I've been there approximately 45 minutes, got assigned my crew, got assigned my gear, and the search and rescue alarm went off.
Wow.
I have no idea what I'm doing, dude. I've been on a boat twice in my freaking life, maybe. And I go running down to this boat like I have some sort of clue with these guys. And it was a jumper off the Brooklyn Bridge, which took us 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes from our boat basin to get to. And I watched this crewman next to me jump right in and snatch this guy out of the water that had committed suicide. I don't want to go into graphic detail, but jumping off a bridge is just as bad as jumping off a building. It's like hitting concrete. So it's a mess. I watched him snatch him up. The other crewman started CPR on him. We dropped him off to FDN or New York Fire right under the Brooklyn Bridge. And we hadn't even got the Stokes litter put away yet. And we had another call within, 2 or 3 minutes that a guy had been smashed between a barge and a ship out on the anchorage. in New York Harbor. We went over there, and we had 2 bodies on that boat within the first 40 minutes of being on that boat.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the? I'm like, this is what you guys do every day? And they're like, yeah, whatever. Like they had got assigned there out of boot camp. In the meantime, I'm over in Brooklyn driving a forklift, and I'm like, this is what I signed up for.
Right.
So I did my 2 weeks there, whatever. I went back. I had to go back and drive forklifts, but that was an 8 to 4 job, which is just unheard of when you're an E2 or an E3. Nobody gets those positions. Well, I didn't want that position. So when I'd get off work, I would go straight back over to the Coast Guard station, and I like I didn't do anything for almost a full year. I was there every single day. I got qualified as a boat crew member. I got qualified on every. I wasn't even assigned to the damn unit, and got assigned. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I don't care if I'm doing it in Florida. I don't give a shit where I'm doing it. This is what I'm going to do. And you're giving me the opportunity to do it. Within 10 months, they reassigned me to Station New York, and I was running my own boats at
Awesome.
I think it was 19 years old.
Wow.
I mean, I've never had a passion for anything like that before in my life, and I probably never will again. It was the most incredible thing I've ever done, and it's a shitload of responsibility for a 19-year-old. It's a shitload of responsibility for anybody, to be honest with you. But that's what I loved about the Coast Guard. It is so small that the enlisted in the Coast Guard have the responsibilities of 04s, 05s, in the bigger services. And I mean, I love it. Your boat's your boat. The president can get on your boat and not tell you what to do with it. Your commanding officer has don't get me wrong, you get your ass in trouble when you go back and you've screwed something up. But what happens on that boat is your decision and your decision alone. And it's a lot of responsibility. And with that, in New York, I mean, presidential security zones every freaking 2 days. Some admirals flying in. You got to go to LaGuardia and pick them up. The president's at the UN. You're doing UN security zones. Every billionaire or millionaire out there has a yacht. So I mean, everybody's doing their own private fireworks. There are days, I'm not kidding you, you'd have, I don't know, 5 to 10 to 20 jumpers between. You've got the George Washington Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, just there's all the way up. Our area of responsibility was extremely large, went all the way around Staten Island up to the Verrazano Bridge. Pier fires, boat fires, explosions, little helicopter crashes, 2 major plane crashes with severe loss of life. I don't know how many helicopter crashes. I was going to send it to you earlier. I've got a thing from the Wall Street Journal. Their helicopter crashed right in front of me with their entire board on it.
Wow.
I towed a $5 million helicopter out in front of I got in trouble for that one, I got in a little bit of trouble for that.
Well, ask forgiveness, not permission. But that is, I'm sure you were doing what you felt like you needed to do.
Well, I had to do it because the Staten Island ferry needed to leave, and the helicopters in the New York Harbor, it's a hazard to navigation. This is my job to do it. I didn't take it. If it would have sunk, I would have cut the tow line and tough shit. It was going to crash. It crashed already. So the decision process wasn't hard for me. The thing's in the damn way. We got to get out of the way. Army Corps pulled it out. We recovered a $5 million helicopter. We were all over the news, and my CO was like, "Well, what if it would have sunk?" And I said, "Then it would have sunk." I said, "But it didn't, because we were really good at what we do." But I literally did tow a really expensive helicopter. It was cool.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, so I'm not too familiar with the Coast Guard as much as the other branches. So that was when you were like 18. Did you stay in that position for your whole 5-6 years, or did you go somewhere else?
So for the most part, I was in New York. It's hard to get out of New York once you're there, because at that time, it's a huge base for Coast Guard. I mean, most of the units are like the unit I went to after that. There's 20 people. You're in the middle of nowhere. But this, you have aids to navigation. You've got 3 cutters. You had 3 icebreakers. You had 3 harbor tugs. which were little icebreakers. There's just a ton of other units, and it's cheaper for the government to just transfer you from one unit to the next to the next. So getting out of New York is not an easy task.
Right.
And my goal was always to be, I used to dive back then. Diving in New York Harbor is disgusting. I dove the Keys. I wanted to be down in Florida fishing and diving every day.
And
But
when you say diving, do you mean like scuba diving?
Mhm.
Okay, so that was something you learned that you probably didn't learn in Iowa, I'm assuming. You learned that
No,
through
no.
the Coast Guard? Or was that on
So
your
at that, they have a diver program now. Again,
Yeah,
they had one before. They didn't have one when I was in, and they have one now. So I just went and did it on my own. So I
nice.
literally flew to Key West with my old man, and he spent a week drinking margaritas on the boat, and I like had a private dude my dad paid for, and I got certified down there, and then I got my advanced diver. But I've got some, like, I had a bunch of bones broken in my face, so I get sinus squeezes really bad. Like my goal was to eventually get out, and I wanted to go work at a resort somewhere and just be a dive master and live the beach life. Shit, you're in your 20s and you don't realize
Oh yeah,
I don't do well with heat anymore, dude. I got skin cancer. Like that dream that would have been fun for a couple years, but anyway, that's how I ended up
do
learning
you
to dive.
still do you still like will you still dive if you go on vacation somewhere, or is that past life?
Nope, this past life.
I I only ask because I'm certified as well.
Yeah.
I have not done it since my accident, but I do plan to try because I really think I still could do it.
Dude, there's
So
no doubt. You could definitely, yeah. There's no doubt you can do it. I mean, what do you got? You were 40% with your legs last time, or have they
I,
gone up since Ragbri? Do you even know?
um probably not. It just like I said though, like I've explained to people is like the braces that I have make
Yep.
it to where it seems like I have more to where I do actually have more. So even if I were to like go dive, for example, I would wear probably my braces like I would be walking just to keep that lower part of my leg stable. And then I
Yep.
have my hip flexors, like my hip flexors to do like the flutter kicks. I can do that. So I do think that the hardest part would probably be just getting from the dry land to the ocean, like that little walk. But once I'm in the water, I think I'd be okay. So I think I'm gonna try that this year.
Dude, you
But
should. I mean, we were
yeah,
just in Clearwater, whatever, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and went to the freaking aquarium. If they can put a prosthetic on a dolphin that's lost its tail, I'm pretty sure they can figure something out for it.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And I only ask because I know you ride motorcycles, and so do I. If you
Yeah.
dive, who knows? Maybe we could go diving. Catalina here in California is known for really good diving. Everywhere else in California sucks because the water's cold, it's murky, it's muddy. There's just nothing to see. But Catalina Island, which is right off of LA, that apparently is really, really good diving,
I've
like
heard.
kelp
I'll come out.
forest.
I mean, I'll come out and give it a shot. I'll probably end up with a sinus squeeze and have to freaking limp back to the boat. But I mean, it's going to be like when I went skiing in Killington after 30 years. Snow skiing is not. It's not like riding a bike. I almost killed myself. It's not that I'm getting old, dude.
Oh yeah,
Let's just
yep.
go with that. It was
I hear
ugly.
you.
I got lost
I
in the woods. It was a horrible experience. Killington's a great ski resort. It's not the resort's fault. It was my old legs and lack of practice.
Yeah, that's funny though. But you know what? I'm glad you're out there doing that still. All right, so can we transition now from Coast Guard? I know you did do. If you want to take us through the journey that led you to the police officer force, but I want to get into the police a little bit. So what'd
So
you do after? Yep.
yeah, there's a couple more things I would really want to touch on in New York that were very like historical, I guess.
Okay.
I was the officer of the day at Station New York when the towers were bombed in '93.
Oh,
We evacuated. Well, we ran medical supplies for 110,000 people and evacuated 110,000 people that day. And all our reservists were, I mean, this is what's made me who I am, and it hasn't really helped with my PTSD much, I guess. All our reservists were NYPD and NYFD. And I mean, I love these guys. I looked up to those guys. Like I knew I wanted to be a fireman or a cop, and I was really considering doing it in New York because why not? What a cool city. It was definitely a cool city back then. But I didn't. Life had other things, and then we also worked the perfect storm. That was freaking insane. It was nuts. We had a 12-foot storm surge just in New York Harbor. Like
Oh my God.
we got a call that, hey, every boat that we had to get underway because our docks were floating off the pilings. That's how big the storm surge was. So we were underway for almost 3 days, which in New York Harbor is about unheard of. I think we had 12-foot seas in the Hudson. I drove a 41-foot Coast Guard boat down the FDR Drive. Fort Totten's boat, which is the area responsibility north of us, their boat broke down, so they ended up sending my crew into a completely foreign, like that's not our area of responsibility, and we're used to dealing with at that point. I mean, my experience is rivers, a little bit of ocean stuff, but not Long Island Sound in the middle of one of the most devastating nor'easters that's been recorded. And we got the absolute shit beat out of us. I mean, broke out windows. It was horrible. I mean, we had houses floating by us, boats float. You couldn't tell if a boat had people on it or didn't as it was sinking because it's just flying by you. And I don't know if they've increased their budget or not, but back then we were still dealing with World War II radars and fucking Loran. We didn't have GPS. We were using paper charts, and our radar sucked. So I mean, it was a harrowing 3 days out there. So
Yeah.
anyway, I ended up finally I hit E5, and after 4 years, and I ended up going to Wilmette Harbor in Chicago, which is right next to Northwestern University, where their observatory is. The station's been defunded; it doesn't exist anymore. But Lake Michigan was a whole different experience. It's extremely violent. It's just a whole different beast than running inland.
Interesting.
And I didn't realize that, because I'm an idiot, I didn't realize Lake Michigan froze over. So I managed to go from the busiest Coast Guard station in the world to hamstringing myself at 23. There's nothing to do. Like, you're on beeper duty, man. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do 4 years here on beeper duty. This is, again, a place to go to retire, not a place for somebody that's, I've got to be busy or I go nuts.
Right.
Well, God took care of that for me because I'm from Des Moines, and the floods of '93 hit, and it was wild. Like, Des Moines was, well, we didn't have drinking water for 3 weeks. My dad's shop was downtown. The spillway up north, the levee had almost broke, and they had figured that we would have had 30 feet of water under. Des Moines would have been 30 feet underwater. It was wild. My dad's shop got destroyed. It's funny. I was looking through old paperwork today, and I was like, I didn't want to get out of the Coast Guard, but I also knew I didn't want to spend another 2 damn years or 3 years at a frozen place. So I put in for hardship discharge. They gave me maternity leave. They didn't want me to go. They wanted me to stay in. Dude, I wasn't married. I didn't have children. I was a dude that they gave maternity leave to for 2 years. They're like, come back in. Like, we want you back in. Go home, take care of your family. I love this service, man. They really take good care of their people. But that's not the way life worked out. I came back to Des Moines, and I had offers from, I think, Lincoln Police Department, Des Moines Police Department. I mean, that's back then. Again, this is before the internet. This is before Rodney King. Like, there were 2,000 applicants for Des Moines. Like, it was almost impossible to get on unless you knew someone, or, I didn't have any. I went to John Jay out in New York for a few semesters, but I didn't have a lot of college, and I definitely didn't know anybody. But I got hired. It took 2 years, and they hired 19 of us. So that's kind of where the segue went into that. Okay. And I met my ex-wife in the police academy, and that was a whole different beast. I went from literally, saving lives, and having I had a good worldview, man, when I left the Coast Guard. Even after New York, even after all the shit, my worldview was still good. Like, I still really wanted to help people and wanted to make a difference. Still young and dumb enough to think you could. Well, that police department.
Do you believe that you can't right now?
We make a difference a different way now. Like, completely.
I was gonna say, because you make a difference. I know right now you make a difference, which we haven't gotten to yet, obviously. But yeah, I mean,
It took a
with your
long time
bakery.
to get to that point because, like I said, the shit that you see on an average day. I'm not talking about small podunk police departments. No offense to all you small podunk officers, but it's a different freaking world, man. And people are like, oh, you're in Des Moines. Yeah, we're on the I-80-35 drug corridor with more sex trafficking and cocaine than you've ever freaking seen. Speaking of cocaine, I saw 12 tons in New York. That was the most dope I ever saw of coke. That was the largest seizure in U.S. history. That was 92, I believe. Cutter Adet
Did,
found it. But
let let me ask you something kind of irrelevant, kind of personal. You can dismiss it if you'd like. I'm just curious of your background back then. When you're in the Coast Guard and stuff like that, you're obviously, 18, 19, 20, 21. You're in New York City, so you're a young man. Was there a party life at all? Like,
so
you just brought up Coke. So I just didn't know what kind of background you had in that regard.
it's funny for me. Like I mean, did we drink a lot? Yeah, we were in the military, but party wise, like, dude, I was so focused on work that I would, if I took days off, I would just take like whatever study material I have and find a coffee shop in the village or, or a blues bar somewhere. And I just sit and study. I had friends and stuff, or I'd go upstate. Like I had a shitty little car and I had a motorcycle back then too. And I had a little mountain bike, a little Bianchi mountain bike, and I'd go upstate. And there's a World War II vet who had lost her husband, and she owned a little resort up on Lake George, and she'd let us stay up there for free. So I'd spend 3 days up there in a little rowboat, just rowing around studying. I didn't really. The guys that did go party, they didn't screw around with drug testing back then. I don't know if they do now, but I mean, they didn't make it very long.
Yeah.
That's New York. It's wild, man, and it's easy to get wrapped up in shit. I was more
Uh,
interested in I had a vision, and that wasn't it. Like I said, I like even with weed, like I smoke weed like crazy now. I got a medical card, blah blah blah. But back then, man, I'm not nothing. I wouldn't if I have to arrest somebody for it. I'm not doing it. I kind of my therapist eventually told me, he's like, dude, you just see shit too much in black and white. I'm like, no, that's the way I've always lived my life.
Wait, so when you became a police officer, you just said that because obviously it's illegal in Iowa. Still, I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
realize that. I didn't even realize that because obviously I'm in California and it's been legal for so
legal
long
forever. Yep,
that I did not realize when people were talking about when I was back home, somebody going to jail for possession of like a little bit of weed. I was
yep,
like, oh my gosh, like what is going
yep.
on? But you're
Yeah,
saying you wouldn't make those arrests when you were a police officer?
shit, no, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. The only the only arrest I made, if you're an asshole, you're going. Period. I don't care what it is. No dog license. You're going to go to jail. Don't be an asshole. That is pretty good life lesson for anybody. But if I pulled you over with weed, I'd be like, dump that shit, dude. Like don't jack your life up over this. But I was really good at stolen cars, man, and we didn't have time to mess with it anyway. Like when I worked they called it the block, but it was the inner city, and it was during the crack epidemic, and the gangs were just brutal, man. Back then, I mean, brutal. It just kids killing each other left and right, innocent people getting same shit we get all the shit that comes over from Chicago. When they do their dumb shit in Chicago, they run over here to Waterloo, which is in between Des Moines and Chicago, and then
Uh-huh.
they'll eventually end up in Des Moines. So we end up with all that garbage here, and they're on the run and they're doing the same criminal bullshit. Sorry, I forgot your question. I went down a rabbit hole in my head. So, but anyway,
No,
oh yeah, but yeah, like weed, I don't give a shit. I stopped a white kid one night in the hood. He's got no plates on his caddy. The Cadillac, like I was really good at stolen cars, so I'm like, okay, this is this year of caddy, blah blah blah. I assumed it was stolen. No, this guy is just a moron. He's rolling around up in the hood with a Cheech and Chong blunt behind his ear with no plates. And of course, I light him up, and he's like, "Oh, what'd you pull me over for?" He's innocent of everything. And I walk up to his door, and I'm just like, "It's like, bro, get out of the car. Like, we're not even like it's on the driver's side. If you've got a blunt that big behind your ear, you're going to jail just for being an idiot." But
yeah,
it wasn't just that. Like, he had 4 pounds on him in his
yeah,
coat pockets.
yeah. It
Like
is.
you gotta go.
Yeah,
You're
you
too
wanted to go
young
to
to
jail.
be in society at that point, man. You are not. Listen here, you're not going to be a drug kingpin transporting dope like like that.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so obviously that just brings up a whole nother thought that it ties to what you do at Cha Cha's right now, which we haven't spoke about yet. But obviously, there's a lot of people like those gang banging type people, whatever, that they don't probably have a lot of guidance and everything like that. And I'm not justifying what they
Yeah.
do. Obviously, a lot of them are idiots, but I think that something that you are big about is obviously like giving second chances to people and mentoring people and because of what you do. So could you share a little bit about that? Because I think that's really amazing.
Sure. And,
Um,
like I said, I don't mean to come from a jaded place. Like the kids we were dealing with were a product of the environment that they were freaking raised in, and
right.
the culture is glorifying. Listen, you can go to work at, back then there was even a Starbucks, but you go to work at a fast food joint for $6 an hour, or you can go sling freaking crack on the corner and make a couple grand a night. I know what I would have picked when I was 16. And it was, honestly, when I look back at my life, I was either going to be a drug runner or a cop, I guess, because if had somebody introduced me to that easy money early, I'm sorry. I mean, I probably would have been like, you're young, you're I would have bit hook, line, and sinker. I would have been driving boats in Florida just with the lights off, hauling dope.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just it's funny how people's circumstances and life choices can lead to some, but it's also you're a lot of product of your environment. You just got to make the choice to get the hell out of it.
100%. But I love though, I mean, at least you're open minded and aware enough to realize that to where like some people aren't lost completely, right? So just
No,
because maybe they weren't guided correctly
no.
doesn't mean they can't change. So I love that. And that's what can you tell me a little bit about what you do at Highland Cha Cha's Bakery right now?
Yeah,
We can talk more about the bakery as well, but
sure. No, so we took this thing over 2 years ago. It's been here since 1946. It was owned by one family for decades and decades, and then it was bought by this neighborhood. This neighborhood is was not exactly in great shape back in the 90s when I worked it. It was actually a rapid decline, like every other inner city area has been for years. It hadn't been revitalized yet. It's in the process, but my wife had been looking for a spot. I'm like, listen, the bakery's up for sale. Finally, after all these years, the family's finally retired. We should buy this up. Well, somebody else bought it in front of us, and it didn't work out. Timing's everything, dude. Even with what you're talking about, with the if there's a way, God will find it for you to you'll end up where you're supposed to be one way or another. So 2 years later, we get a phone call that this place is for sale. I won't name the names, but they were like, we want you guys in this spot. Chacha had run, she's been in the restaurant business for 20 some years or better at this point. And, it was COVID and everything just screwed up her bartending, screwed up everything. And she'd been baking out of our house for years. She's from a large family. She's an incredible cook, and she's an incredible baker. And her business out of our house had just exploded. Like, she's wholesale into restaurants. We'd outkicked our coverage. We needed a space. I'm also almost 55 years old, and she's considerably younger than me. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, do I really want to invest? Is this what I want to do, man? Like, is this what I want to do with the rest of my life? But I mean, we got to follow her dreams just as much as mine. So we ended up buying the damn thing, and we inherited 25 employees. We inherited this place has been here since 1946. So I mean, just the recipes alone cost us $150,000. Just so and then we tried to merge these. Well, we didn't try. We did it. We merged these two businesses together, and that
That's
was
a real quick, that's a very significant lesson though that you shared. Like that's a really big decision that you made, and you did it really supporting your wife primarily, and obviously seeing opportunity. But that was a big decision. You know what I mean? Like you said like right, like do I really want to do this? Like I don't know. Is there anything that you can share in maybe in regards to like you making that decision? Because obviously, would you have done that if it wasn't for your wife? You
No,
know what I
hell
mean? Like,
no, not a
right?
chance.
You would
No,
exactly.
no.
So I think that's just a testament of like a healthy, understanding of relationship and making those sacrifices for each other and stuff like that. Because obviously, how long have you been married to your current wife?
We've been together 16 years now.
Yeah,
16
which
years.
is honestly like in today's society, it's a big deal. You
Oh,
know?
I'm freaking crazy about her, and vice versa. Like, honestly, living with PTSD sucks, man. And finding somebody like her dad's a ranger. Her entire or was he's a retired ranger. Her brothers are still in the military. She gets it. She was an army brat. Um, it's not easy. It's not easy living with me. I'm high stress, high strung, go 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 go. And I had a very successful business, like very, very successful insurance adjusting business when this opportunity came up. So I thought I was going to be here for like a month and then I was just going to go back to doing what I do. I worked by myself. I made a lot of money. I didn't answer to anybody. It was a freaking beautiful scenario. Um,
Yeah.
but we didn't
And
know
you did.
this place sells donuts, dude. We didn't know shit about donuts.
Yeah.
And we had, at our house, we had my mom and our daughter and her mom and Chach and me and some friends. Like, we'd churn out hundreds of cheesecakes a week, but it was all family. We were all screwing around. We inherited 25 employees, man, and
That's crazy.
a lot of debt, a shitload of debt. So so I did not go back to insurance. I have we've been here ever since, but what we found, and what any restaurant owner, construction person, that's kind of the industries I've worked in. But a lot of small businesses struggle with just finding good help and being able to pay somebody a decent wage. And I'm going to be 1,000% honest. The margins in a bakery, bro, they are not high. This is all perishable shit that either has to be donated or tossed at the end of the day, or we got to sell out. I mean, and to try to find that balance and figure out how many people are going to come through the door today. It's like this week, for example, is every year it's the slowest year of the week. Everybody's going back to school. Iowa State Fair just ended. It's brutal and it's terrifying. I mean, your sales are down 40-50%, and we still got to pay all these people. So
Wow.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's kind of how we ended up here. We jumped in. We figured, why not, man? Fuck it. If you don't, the thing is, if we didn't do it, we would always wonder.
Yep.
And if you do it and you fail, who gives a shit? Go do something else. There's a thousand. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not the end of the world. Death is. That's it. You're done at that point. But
And
it's
that's
just money.
yeah, and that is the same mindset I have. And there are a lot of people though that live their life out of fear versus faith, and are scared of that. Fail is first attempt in learning. There is no such thing as really failure. It's just
No.
as long as you learn and do it again, like you're gonna learn and learn and learn, you'll eventually figure it out or find the right path. So I think that's amazing. But real quick, did you touch on because don't you do like a second chance program thing with your
That's what I
employees?
was gonna. That's what I was gonna get to. So back to what I was getting at. So we inherited 25 employees, and I'm like, oh my god, who are these people? You don't know them. Of those 25, I think we've got 3 left. We have put people in place. Like, we've changed this whole dynamic around. And what I have found over the first year is, I'm like, I keep getting people off the street. They don't show up. They turn in some bullshit resume that's just absolute garbage. You can tell in 2 days whether or not they're going to make it or not. We're high volume, we're fast paced. Most of them don't. And I'm like, good God, I just want somebody that wants to freaking be here. I want somebody that's
Right.
honest. And so, God, who was the first one? I don't even remember who the first one was, but I'm like, let's give this guy a chance. Well, that didn't work out very well. I've got a dope house behind me, Des Moines Police Department. If you ever want to do your job and maybe take this guy to jail, he's been dealing heroin for 2 years. But one of the first guys I hired ended up shooting heroin in my kitchen. That didn't work out great for us. I had another one I had hired that stole our checkbook and spent $6,000 and opened a credit card in our name. So that one didn't
Wow.
work out very well for us
Wow.
either. There's pitfalls to hiring second chance folks, But by the same token, we've got 4 right now, and they're just phenomenal model employees. I've got a guy that we just hired he's been 2 weeks out of prison now. He's going to continue to be a model employee. I don't know, but I do know he's on parole, and I do know if he jacks up, I'll just call his parole officer. I don't give a shit. I mean,
Right.
he wants to be at work. He's got an incredible resume, and he's actually, in the last week, I've watched him just exceed every expectation I've had. I've got another lady. I don't want to name names or go into any stories because some of them have very tragic stories. She has just thrived. We helped her get an apartment. She's freaking confident. She was an abuse victim. Like she's got her voice back, and she wants to be here, and she's wonderful. I've got another one
So
we just picked up on Friday. I mean,
that program that resource where you give people the second chance, was that already established at the restaurant, or did you create that yourself, or how did you think of that?
so it's kind of funny. We do cookie classes, sometimes naughty cookie classes, and we were doing a class up here, and I mean it's a bunch of people drinking, decorating naughty cookies, and one of the I left that police department 25 years ago. One of the ladies in the class was talking to Chacha, and she's like, she recognized my last name, but didn't recognize me. I look a little bit different than I did 30 years ago. And she was a former prosecutor for Polk County, and she was a prosecutor when I was a cop, and we got to talking, and I'm like, start sending people our way. I trust her. I trust her judgment. There's so many good programs. There's so many programs in Des Moines that I'm still finding out about them. Like I had a lady come in the other day. I just hired one of her girls that just blew me the frick away. But she was like, "Hey, I heard you guys." The more that we put out there, "Hey, we're hiring second chance people," the more people that really do need a second chance come in, and they've been exceptional. Minus the first 2. Like I said, it's been a learning curve on what you want, what you don't want, what you won't tolerate. But I mean, everybody should have a second chance. And I could go, dude. I could go on for months about how fucked up this probation system is. It is a fucking joke. It's just disgusting. It's a cash grab, boot on the freaking neck of poor people. There's not a better explanation for it, and there's so much politics in it. There's not justice anymore. It's just bullshit emotion, and I want to be careful with what I say. I think I've said enough
No,
now.
yeah, and I agree. There's a lot of things like that on the broader scale of our country too that really upset me, and I hope that somebody like myself that like I do believe there's the possibility for change and hope in the future to make those things better. But there's a lot of things that we still could talk about, but we are going to be out of time, so we're going to wrap this up pretty much right now. Um, the I want to ask you, I guess, just one more question, because typically my show, other than just having on people like yourself to hear your story and highlight a couple things, is I try to wrap it around and weave in service, purpose, leadership, resilience. Obviously, service very well. Leadership very well. You were put in charge of a boat 2 weeks into the service and doing rescue missions in the harbor. Resilience. We didn't talk too much of your story, but I know you've been through a lot of stuff. So, out of all those things, what is like maybe one of the biggest? And I know this is a hard question, but life lessons you've learned in regard to any of those 4 things.
Well, anything you think in your 20s, just throw it away because by 50, that is going to go a whole different direction.
Yeah.
Your whole worldview is going to change, and hopefully you've lived a sheltered enough life where it doesn't. But if you put yourself out there, it's going to change, and you're going to get constantly challenged.
Yeah, and then what would be? This is one I'm gonna ask everybody too. What would be one thing that you would tell somebody if you were talking to somebody right now that had no hope, they were maybe suicidal, they're just going through a hard time, because I'm sure you've been through that. I've been through that. What would you tell them right now with your life experience?
I've got, dude, I seriously have an arm full of badge numbers of cops that have killed themselves, we've got an epidemic really all over the country, not just in the Coast Guard, but it's like it's out of control. I've had very good friends that have man, one more fucking day or pick up the phone and call. Like my brother fucking killed himself last year, threw himself in front of a fucking semi after I had just spoke to him. Just reach out to people, man. Seriously, the people that you least expect or that always seem happy are probably not as happy as they seem with all this bullshit on social media. We can all put on this fake persona, but just reach out and take care of everybody, especially for veterans, man, and first responders. Jesus Christ, put the ego down, pick up the fucking phone, and call somebody. And I don't mean from your command staff or whatever. Go get help on the outside if you have to. The deck's stacked against us as first responders. Dude, I was just reading my capstone. I know we got to get off this, but I was reading this paper I wrote 2 months after I retired from the police department about what a fucked up mess of there was no critical incident management. Our freaking police psychologist got arrested for hookers and blow. I can't make that up. He really did. Like, why would I go talk to? We called him Dr. Giggles. That's not a fucking support system. That is just a way for the city to get liability off their ass. Right. Join the American Legion if you're a veteran, man. I swear to God, go do Patriot Guard rides. Go serve other people other than yourself. Get out of your head. And there's tons of shit. There's still people that need your help. It's not over. And one day changes everything, but you cannot fucking take it back once you're gone. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Hey, well, thank you very much. That was an amazing, authentic answer. All right, so Ed, thank you very much for sharing your story from the Coast Guard to the police force to construction sites to owning your own bakery. You have shared many amazing stories and lessons of resilience and service and purpose and leadership. And we are incredibly grateful to have you on the show. If you're ever in the Des Moines, Iowa area, please go check out his shop. It is called Highland Cha Cha Bakery for some of the best baked goods you ever will find. And enjoy the show.